My 5,000 euro house is simple, and that's what makes it so complicated.
It's best to start with the basics. I need a roof.
My neighbors Ivana and Igor came to unveil the concrete we had poured the day before at the apex of the house. That beautiful concrete. Since that was looking as it should, we took out our apex beam and started drilling holes in it and making sure it was level. When he was sure everything was in order, Igor sanded it down precisely. Looking very shiny on both sides. When the sanding was complete, we took out the stain and used it to paint all of the edges of the beams. This, of course, was to look beautiful and protect it from the elements. Just as we were finishing up, the neighborhood boys came riding up the trail. We still needed to clear the top path to the house. It's really confusing out here because the path is dead, so we're basically building a new one from scratch. It had been decades since anybody had used this path, but it needed to be clear if I wanted running water. Enter Leonardo, my volunteer firefighter neighbor. Of course, he brought his weed whacker, and he and the local boys were gonna try to make this path clear one way or another. But I had to go back down the hill and check on Igor and Ivana. Igor was trying to use this string to check his work.
This is for the fish.
For the fish?
Yeah, we're fishing now.
He lowered his weight down to check if the apex lined up with the other beams, but it wasn't looking good. It turns out he was about 2 centimeters off and had to make some adjustments. Yeah! Looking absolutely perfect now. Then Patrick and his dad came up with supplies for the big terrace. So over here is supposed to be a huge deck. It's going to be held up with concrete pillars in these 15 holes. That is going to be a lot of concrete, and we're going to get right on it tomorrow morning. Igor started to measure out the old beams that we had saved from the original roof. They were looking good, but they were dark, and we wanted to sand them so they could be restained. Unfortunately, they only got about halfway done before they had to go for the day. Then when some of the boys came back down to adjust the chainsaw, I remembered. I wonder what kind of progress they were making with Leonardo. They had been working for hours trying to make a way through the forest, and they were making a pretty good team, despite all of the obstacles. This massive tree fell, and it's right in the middle of the path. Eventually, the chainsaw had cut that tree into pieces and we moved it out of the way. Yes, they had successfully created a new path, at least for a small four-wheeler. Absolutely amazing. Now we just need to bring the excavator up here to dig the channel for the water line. After everyone went home, it was just me sanding the beams on the roof until it started to get dark. The house itself only has 3 rooms. The basement, first floor, top floor. But they're all only about 14 square meters. That's why I had the idea to bring the excavator up behind the house and flatten out this section for a new 34 square meter terrace. I wanted a concrete floor, but that just wasn't possible, so we drilled 15 holes that were going to hold underground concrete pillars. Those pillars would hold up a wooden deck. But the manpower to pour all of that concrete by hand was going to be immense. So early in the morning, I got 6 neighbors together to get the job done. Nice chair! The plan was simple, but wasn't going to be easy. Just wheelbarrow over the mixed concrete to a hole and pour it in. Do that over and over again. After 2 wheelbarrows of concrete, it still looks just as deep as before. Yeah, this is gonna take all day. Luckily, we developed a good system. Igor and Ivana on the concrete mixer, Kresho and his son-in-law Martin on concrete transport, and Mladen and Patrick making sure that the concrete was level and even. You see, the concrete pillars needed to come just a little bit above the ground so the deck would be floating a bit. You definitely wouldn't want wooden planks just sitting in the dirt. It was important to me to get this section done as quickly as possible because I have all of these people coming up here all of the time and there's no place for any of them to hang out. This is going to be an excellent place to have a barbecue. That takes a lot of arm strength. Eventually, we ran out of gravel and had to make a trip down below to get more. When I was down, a new team of workers had arrived to set up scaffolding on the house. These are the guys who are going to do the facade. Unfortunately, I had not planned that out so well, and there was no way to get the scaffolding up the hill. They came up the hill to assess, and now we have a perfect game plan for when they come back. You'll be back. We got right back to work, and then disaster struck. The cement mixer broke. It has a bearing right in here, and it's toast. We need a new mixer. My neighbors told me not to worry and sent Ivana and I into town to go pick up food for everyone. I was gone for about 30 minutes, and when I came back up the trail, there was a new cement mixer. Of course, they called a neighbor I do not know and have never met, and he gave us his cement mixer right away to use. At this point, the sun was high in the sky and there wasn't much shade, so we went into the cellar, made a makeshift table, and had lunch. It wasn't the best of conditions and we were all exhausted, but I think we still had a pretty nice time. Then it was back to work. This was the final stretch. We had to push through the heat for just a little bit longer, pour a few more wheelbarrows, measure just a bit more, and finally, the last one. And they're all done. You can just imagine what it's going to look like when the wood is on top of them. I would do absolutely anything for these people. It's going to be epic. Yesterday, we spent in the heat pouring concrete for the pillars on the new deck. This morning, they were dry, but the ground was no longer level from all of those holes. I was alone in the morning, so I started leveling the ground myself with a shovel, but eventually I had to call for backup. My neighbors brought me a better shovel and a wheelbarrow, but couldn't stick around to help. No problem, I can handle this. After a while, my neighbors Igor and Ivana showed up to keep working on the roof. There was still a lot of sanding Igor wanted to do on the new beams, and that was probably going to take all day. So Ivana joined me down in the dirt cutting roots that were in the way. Of course, my neighbor Mario showed up next to help me shovel and transport dirt. I was sure this was all the help I was getting today, but then out of nowhere, a new guy, Chris, showed up. I've never seen Chris before, I don't know him, but he's a neighbor who lives nearby and he wanted to help, so why not? With the extra manpower, Mario, Chris, and I were able to level the ground pretty quickly by hand. Now we want to place gravel on the ground around the pillars, but we need to put this cover over first to keep plants from growing underneath it. This was a simple process that was going by very quickly until I realized that we had a problem. We only got half as much as we needed. Then we had another problem. You broke the sander?
Yeah, the paper is...
Only 2 left. That meant Mario and I had to make a quick trip to the hardware store to pick up a new sander and the material we were missing. It started to rain. Again. We ran into the hardware store trying to avoid the rain as much as possible and picked out what we needed. And on the drive back, the rain just got worse. Don't even get me started on the weather forecast. Those guys cannot be trusted. I don't think we're gonna make it up the trail, but I'm gonna try because I don't want to go out and walk up in the rain. Probably a mistake. I'm stuck already. I did. This thing doesn't have power steering. The trail was absolutely devastated by the rain.
we didn't took the stuff.
No, I'm not bringing this stuff, dude. We're not gonna use this stuff. It's a freaking mudslide, dude. This is not my idea of a good time. Dude. It was extremely hard to even stay upright with all of the mud. But eventually we made it.
Congratulations.
No, don't give me those. It's too late. We tried to wait for the rain to stop, but it just wasn't happening. It was too dangerous to drive any vehicles down with this kind of mud, so everybody had to walk down in the mud and the rain. Yeah, not exactly how I expected this day to end. Bruh. This morning I was happy to see that there wasn't a mudslide, everything was completely intact, but I had a bit of cleaning up to do. I started to lay out this material yesterday before the rain, but only got halfway done, so today I was going to finish that. It was just me in the morning, so I took it upon myself to get it done one roll at a time. This spot will be the location of the new deck I'm building, and this material goes under the gravel. Once I was finished with that, my neighbor Mario showed up, and he started sanding down these beams for the roof. This took quite a while, but just as we were finishing up, my next neighbor, Chris, came up, and he offered to help us paint. Now that the roof's beams were all sanded, they just needed to be stained. After working for a little bit, my neighbors Igor and Ivana came, and they started to help us paint as well. It's starting to get a little crowded up here. With so much help, we finished quickly and needed to wait for it to dry. I told my neighbors Patrick and Mladen that I had laid down the material for the gravel and we were ready for it. To cover such a large space by hand, we needed a system. Igor and I shoveled the gravel. Then it was transported in wheelbarrows by Chris and Mario, where it was leveled by Ivana. We had help from somebody new too. This is Sebastian. He's the local postman. He just came out of nowhere and offered to help. I'm glad he did too. He helped pull wheelbarrows up this hill. When the trailer was empty, I went up to take a look. This is one trailer full. I think we're probably gonna need 6, 7. Back down they go. They're back. It took a lot of time, effort, and teamwork, but eventually the end started to be in sight. You making coffee?
Yes.
And boom, there it is. The vibes right now are just immaculate. Now that we were done on the ground, our beams were dry, and it was time to head back up to the roof. The first thing we had to do was create a template. We were going to use it as a guide on where to cut the notches in the beams. It turns out the chainsaw is these guys' roofing tool of choice, and I can't say I blame them. Pretty soon we were setting up those first beams on the apex. But something wasn't quite measured right. More trimming and cutting was necessary, but it just wasn't working out.
Speed square.
That morning I had used that speed square to cook noodles. After more cutting, hammering, and grinding, the beams just weren't lining up.
Ask ChatGPT how to build a roof.
Igor called an expert and we were able to come up with a game plan, but pretty soon it was dark and everybody had to go. Busy day, even busier day tomorrow. One of my biggest goals is to turn this spot into a bathroom. But in the middle of the woods, there are no water lines, so the water company came out again to inspect the new trail we built. They liked what they saw and we're gonna break ground and lay those new pipes next week. Which was great timing because just after the water company, some people from GF came up the hill. They brought with them a bunch of water pipes and fittings from Uponor. They explained to me all of the tools and materials I was going to need to get water to my bathroom. The truth is, I know nothing about plumbing, so I was really happy that they came up to explain everything to me.
Wow.
And they were generous enough to give me all of the materials. Then I had to run down the hill for an unexpected delivery.
Oh, shoot.
They sent a cute little note. We follow your renovation adventure of the old house every day. We admire your patience and determination in turning a neglected building into your home. We eagerly await the next chapter of your story, Cedevita. Now that was an amazing surprise. I loaded up and went to go pick up my neighbors Mario and Igor. And another new helper, Zdravko.
Welcome aboard.
And I drove them up the hill. We were sick and tired of walking up this thing. We were all really happy about the Cedevita. We were drinking it all day. It was really nice of them to send it. It was exactly what we needed.
Always refreshing.
It absolutely brightened our day. While installing the beams for the roof yesterday, we had a bit of a geometry problem. And that's what Zdravko is here for. He's been working on roofs for more than 25 years and knew exactly how to solve it. Finally, the beams were starting to go up in their proper places. Then we got extra help when my neighbor Chris came riding up the trail.
He's working.
Now, Chris is a skilled carpenter, and so he was really eager to help us on this. With a team like this of local experts, I was confident that we were going to get everything done precisely.
Window here somewhere.
Okay, precisely enough. I was impressed with how good these guys were with their hammers, and so I wanted to see how many swings it would take to pound in a nail.
Dude.
Now or never. Never.
Yeah.
Come on, Igor.
Igor.
Zdravko and Igor had done their part, and they had to go for the day, leaving me, Mario, and Chris to finish the job. Once they got started, it really wasn't long until the last beam went into place.
Woo! The beams are up.
Now it was finally time to start covering the roof with these planks that we had stained before, by cutting them down to size and nailing them into place. But time was not on our side. We had to hurry if we were going to make any meaningful progress before the sun went down. Eventually, we had to call it a day.
We're almost there. What do we have, like 80% more boards to do?
Today, we're going to finish that. After days of preparation and then cutting, staining, and hammering.
Is that the last one?
That is the last one.
Oh my goodness!
The beautiful underside could be seen from below. While my neighbors Chris and Mario were working on the roof, I was taking care of this Japanese knotweed. When I first moved in here, this invasive plant had completely taken over the house, and I was not going to let that happen again. I was told that these chemicals would take care of them, so I loaded up the sprayer and sprayed them down. I'm really curious to see if it'll work against this resilient plant. Now that the pretty boards on the edges were up, it was time to put in the not-so-pretty boards in the center. First, Mario had to create a foothold for himself for safety, and then he started nailing in those boards one by one. Chris and I cut boards and handed them up for him to nail in. And after only about an hour, the first half was done. Okay, there were a few gaps on the edges, but that's nothing the chainsaw can't fix.
And problem solved.
The chainsaw left a lot of dust on the roof that needed to be blown off.
Oh, jeez. Watch where you're pointing that thing.
We got an extra set of hands when my neighbor Igor came to join us. Despite not claiming to be a roofer, he seemed to really know how this process works. We had just a few small gaps left when it started to rain.
Rain is leaking through the roof. Must not have been done very well.
Thankfully, the rain didn't last long, and pretty soon the four of us were back up on the roof. Yes, we were all definitely putting in equal amounts of work on this roof project. It was a real team effort.
Good place to get some sunbathing done.
I'm on the beach.
With the wood almost finished, it was time for the protective foil.
Bruh!
The wood, of course, wasn't perfect, so this fills in gaps and keeps water out. After hammering in a little bit of support, it was time to staple down the first line of foil.
I could not do this. That's for sure.
It was amazing to see that roof shape back on top again. There's just one question. How do these guys get down? Well, I guess we were planning on having a window here at some point.
That is a good solution.
These three neighbors ended up making an excellent team. Even though they've never worked together before, they seemed to just have everything figured out the way it was supposed to be. Finally, with the last of the foil nailed down, my house was waterproof and I had a new room.
Feels good, man. Feels good. That looks really good.
But just because it was covered doesn't mean it was sealed. And that doesn't mean that it was clean underneath it. My neighbors Mario and Chris helped me build the roof, and now they were going to help me finish it. The mess was extreme. We weren't exactly cleaning up as we went, and so we just decided to take everything all out at once. We stacked up the bricks we knew we would need to seal the edges and swept the floor, creating the biggest pile of debris I think I had ever seen.
I like this strategy. It's absolutely amazing what we've done here.
We raised the roof about 1/2 meter from where it was before to make the roof perfect for a living room. But that meant that we needed to fill in this empty space we created. And that meant smoothing out these edges by removing all of the old mortar. Some of it came off easy and some of it was a lot harder to remove. Pretty soon we filled 3 buckets of just old mortar and brick from the edges. Then we had to create a little bit of mortar of our own. We prepared the surface and started placing down our first mortar and bricks.
Huh? I'm a pro.
Okay, I'd let the real pros do the work. Chris had done this before. Mario said he hadn't, but he seemed to have it together pretty well.
I just love that. Are you just using your hands?
Unfortunately, they couldn't stay for long. We didn't finish the first wall and hadn't even started on the second, but they promised to come back the next morning.
This is what I woke up in the morning to. Absolute devastation. It's been raining all night. There's no way anybody can get up. And of course, we left the mortar outside.
The trail to my house was completely closed. Thankfully, I wasn't alone. My girlfriend Angie had come to visit me the night before, and we were going to spend some quality time together. The dry attic was a perfect place for her to teach me a domestic game. She beat me by quite a lot. We figured if we were gonna be on our own, maybe we could figure out this brick thing ourselves.
Like butter.
We definitely had different styles of working.
You're being too precise. Do
I
it.
don't want people to be like, oh, she's not doing it right.
So what if they do?
Yes, pretty soon her side looked like this, and my side looked like this.
Do you feel like Michelangelo?
Stop it.
Yep. This is a masterpiece. We're out of bricks.
It had been raining for 12 hours straight, and we had no way to get any food or supplies. Luckily, my neighbors Igor and Ivana came with some dinner for Angie and I to eat.
Voila.
Hopefully things will be more dry tomorrow.
We're gonna get this done together.
Been raining for 2 days straight, so Angie and I decided that we were going to stay indoors and fix these gaps in the roof. But there was one problem.
We're out of bricks.
My neighbor Chris came to the rescue in his Mercedes and drove us to pick up some more bricks.
That's 4 bags of mortar and 15 bricks in the back of a Mercedes.
There was no way a car could make it up or down that muddy trail, so we brought everything over by hand. Of course, now that the experts Chris and Mario arrived, they made short work of it.
It's not pretty, but it is sealed.
We wanted to do more, but the weather just got worse.
I mean, this has got to be the worst rain I've experienced since I moved to Europe. I mean, for real.
Yes, after 2 days of rain, we were in for a third straight. It seemed like it would never end until the next day.
Finally, a clear sky.
Angie and I started clearing out the attic from all of those smashed bricks, and I was feeling good.
I genuinely think this has potential to be the best room in the house.
But the bathroom needed more attention today, or at least what was going to be the bathroom. Now the path was dry enough for me to drive into town and pick up some wood. But it didn't quite fit in the Yugo, so we had to cut it down to size. We were going to use this wood to build a frame for the concrete foundation of the room. Of course, my neighbor Kresho helped me load up the wood in his tractor and drive it up the trail. When we reached the top, my neighbor Chris was waiting for us. This water tank needed to be moved before we could do any work, but all of the places it could go were full of debris. Luckily, some neighborhood boys came up and offered to help us clear the way. Then Crescio came up with his son-in-law Martin, and even more neighborhood boys came up to help. Chris and Martin cleared out a space for the water tank to go, and we had to lift it. Water is precious. We didn't want to empty the tank, so it took everyone to lift it and put it in place.
Rock solid.
After using teamwork to fill the tank up even more with water, I had to make another trip into town. Of course, I went to Pevex. Out of all of the brands I've worked with, this is one that I actually reached out to because I shop here so often. I pick up basically all of my tools and supplies at Pevex.
There's like a lot of stuff in here.
Basically, they have everything you need to build, furnish, or repair a house for a good price. And they wanted to give me what I needed today. They actually wanted to give me more than this, but I suggested that they split it up into 4 500 € gift cards, which I could give to my neighbors. It's a gift I know they'll appreciate.
This probably exceeds the vehicle's weight limit, but it's okay.
I drove back into town and up the trail to deliver what I got.
We're stuck.
What have you done?
I don't know.
Of course, my neighbor Igor was able to get the car unstuck.
I'm genuinely impressed.
Him and Mario were getting ready to lay that concrete foundation. I have been living without a bathroom for more than a month, and now it was time to change that.
I cut the boards too short. They needed to fit in the Yugo.
That's a problem for tomorrow. At least it's getting the foundation of one.
Did you line it up?
I don't know.
This foundation is particularly difficult because of the drainage pipes. Basically, we're just kind of guessing and making it up as we go along. But I fully trust my neighbor Igor to guess correctly. This house was never built with running water in mind, so we need to be careful. The foundation will first begin with kind of a fence of concrete. We're building this wooden frame to keep it in place. Or at least we were until it started to rain and we had to cover everything up and call it a day. The next morning, I went to pick up some supplies we were missing.
Gotta do what you gotta do. We'll make it. If I can get this done without breaking a window, that will be a miracle.
I completed the wooden frame all by myself. It's not pretty, but it will hold concrete. We had a lot of extra bits that we had broken up with the jackhammer the day before, so Angie and I started grabbing them and throwing them into the center of the foundation. Basically just trying to fill up empty space so we don't have to pour too much. Pretty soon, my neighbor Mario came to help us with that, and Igor and Ivana arrived shortly after. You'll notice we're only pouring 3 sides for this concrete foundation, and that's because we're going to anchor it to the original building. On each side, we drilled in these metal bars for strength, and then we put in 2 layers of this mesh that I had bought on each side. Then I had to pick up an unexpected delivery.
How many boxes total? 1, 2, 3?
Yes, Lasta, a company based out of Bosnia and Herzegovina, sent me like a bunch of boxes of cookies. These are called krem shtapici. There are 5 different flavors, and basically everyone in the region is familiar with them. I'm really happy they were the ones who decided to send us these cookies because everyone on the job site likes them. And so I made sure to set out a bunch of boxes with all of the flavors. I'm not sure how many boxes we went through in just this day, but it was quite a lot.
A giant cookie, maybe?
Yes, it's a giant cookie.
I finally caved and decided to buy a cement mixer. My neighbor Chris and Mario built it. The rebar was finally in place. The generator was filled with gas. And it was time to start mixing, filling up those wheelbarrows, pushing them over to the frame, and carefully pouring it all in. This process continued for a little while, using various different techniques and methods, until eventually we ran out of gravel. And we didn't have a tractor, so Mario and I went down the hill with my little single-axle tractor and filled that up with gravel. And though this thing is fun to drive, and it did eventually make it up the hill, we had to enlist the help of my neighbor Patrick to put extra weight on the front. We knew there had to be an easier way.
Fast and Furious.
But, of course, Patrick's dad, Mladen, came in clutch again and was able to transport the gravel we needed. It seems I'm always relying on the kindness of others. Pretty soon, the last of the concrete was poured and leveled out. After it dries, we'll do the center.
If Igor says it's good, then it's good. Follow this page to see what happens next.